let me ask if I can interview Bourne. You know, he is signed to Interscope. And I kid you not, an hour later, Bourne shows up to our house. Okay. What's going on, guys? I know it's been a while since I've done this behind the scenes series, but let's just get right into this one. As you guys know, I've taken a ton of L's for my media outlet. I'm talking about me DMing a ton of artist managers and 95% of the time getting no response or just getting something really rude in return. Me writing a huge request and someone just saying nah. Yes, that's actually happened before, by the way. I'm talking about staying up nights and nights and nights, emailing a ton of A&Rs at labels, only to get zero response. I've even went as far as to taking an entire trip to Toronto, setting up a bunch of interviews there, and then getting canceled on for every single one of them, and yeah, wasting a lot of my money. You know, a lot of people start things or passions and get a door shut on them and feel like, you know, that's the point where they need to quit. And that includes me. I've thought this way too. You know, there's been many points where I was literally gonna like delete everything off my hard drive and just quit because I felt like, nah man, like this hustle is just not for me. But within that year, you know, things have changed a lot since then. And this recent New York trip I just took has taught me one really valuable lesson that I'm gonna share with you guys at the end of this video. Basically, this is the video I wish I saw when I was first starting off, because I know if I would have seen this, I would have never had any of those crazy thoughts of quitting. So let's get right into what actually happened in New York. First, we're gonna start off with the label meetings. And yes, you guys are hearing that correct, label meetings. I met with all of the major labels. Every single one of them you hear on the internet. I gotta go to their headquarters in New York and meet the staff. Interscope, Def Jam, Columbia, Epic Records, Rock Nation. And I mean, come on, like just going to the Rock Nation building itself was just unreal. Like that, oh my god, that place is beautiful. I met with all the labels because now I'm actually working with the people who handle press for all the labels' artists. Like, I would be in a room sitting down and one by one a different person from the marketing team would come in, tell me which artists they work with, and then boom, we'd set up an interview. And now I'm talking about interviews with artists that I actually like constantly listen to and am a fan of. And I didn't feel like a kid in his bedroom anymore. Like, this was legit. You look to your right, you see the Sony music sign, you look to your left and you see like JID's manager, which that actually happened, by the way. I would come to the Sony and Universal Music building so often that the security guards and these random employees would just start recognizing me. Now the next cool thing is I actually spent some days hanging out with other famous content creators and just speaking to them on a friend level. I know the very first day into New York, I actually got to do an interview with Miller from the Rap Radar podcast. Now he respected me so much that he actually booked an entire studio for us to do this interview and gave us as much time as we needed. This same expensive studio where people like Drake, 50 Cent, and Kendrick Lamar would record their albums. I even went to the house of It's The Real, two of the most respected music journalists. I believe I was there for like 2 whole hours just chatting with them in their living room. I even got to meet other famous, ambitious kids who are doing like crazy things. I got their advice on a bunch of ways I could monetize this, and just I learned so many gems. And then lastly, what you guys all love is the interviews. Now guys, some of these interviews I actually planned before the trip, like Miller, 22Gs, Booba Savage, ABG Neal. But the best part is that from last minute decisions and meetings, I got to interview way more artists. Now, I remember I was in downtown Manhattan. I had a meeting with RCA Records in about an hour. I was just sitting waiting in a McDonald's and I was like, you know, instead of this, I feel like I could get something done. Like, I'm in New York after all. And I remember I was watching this podcast back home in Vancouver. It was called the Music Business Podcast. They had on this pretty cool guest who was an A&R at Interscope. I didn't know too much about him, like if he worked with any of the bigger artists. I just thought that he seemed like a nice person, and randomly I was just like, you know what, let me shoot him a DM. He obviously won't respond. He ended up responding right away. He liked my stuff and he said, yo, come meet me at the Interscope office right now. And I'm telling you, this was one of the best decisions that I ever made. I walk into the building, I say what's up. Right away, he introduces me to Ari Lennox's manager, who just happened to be there. We're all talking, and then 5 minutes later, somebody from Def Jam Records just happens to walk in, and then boom, now she wants to set up interviews. Now we're talking, and then 2 minutes later, a publicist from Interscope randomly walks in, and we set up an interview with J.I., which I'm sure you guys saw, by the way. That did a lot of views, like 350K. And the craziest part about this, right, Since everything was going so well, I was like, you know what? I got myself here because of good hustle and good content. Let me ask if I can interview Bourne. You know, he is signed to Interscope and he's like one of my favorite artists. And boom, practically one phone call and this Bourne interview was set up. Who knew that all of these random little things would lead to that? Guys, so fast forward to my last day in New York, I got this text on my phone. Just got the text and it said, hey, it's Pierre. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but that's Bourne and he texted my phone. I made sure I didn't text back yo Pierre because that would have just been corny, but for the location, I just texted him the address of my brother's apartment, and I kid you not, an hour later, Bourne shows up to our house and we're doing an interview there. Are you guys ready?
Cool. Yeah, we're good.
I feel free to talk as much as you want. Just want to hear more about you. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah, Sean, you want to move this way a little bit?
Who would have thought, man? Who would have ever thought? Alright, now I'm just gonna get straight into it. What was that one valuable lesson I was talking about? It's that there is no one straight path to any opportunity. The way life actually works is you just gotta run around all over the place, put your head down for years and just do the work. In the long run, you're gonna find another path to that same opportunity. And in the process of that, you're gonna accomplish so many other crazy things that you didn't even consider. For example, remember that one manager who just straight up DM'd me back saying the word nah? Now that was about a year ago, okay? Fast forward to recently, I just got an email from him. I don't think he remembers who I was, but he said how much he loves the Untitled Chapter interview. He was just so friendly and he was saying that he'd love to get an interview in with his artist. Totally full circle moment. He ended up reaching out to me, and it's because in that process where he told me nah, I used that as motivation. I kept working. I filmed so many great interviews and he had to stumble upon one of my videos. Another example, remember I told you I would stay up all these nights emailing these A&Rs from labels and just getting ignored? I spent the rest of that year emailing much smaller people that were actually on the same level as me. Turns out that those smaller people, they liked me so much that they showed my work to those same big A&Rs who eventually emailed me recently to meet in New York. Another example, the same thing happened with my horrible Toronto trip where all of my money got wasted. I used that terrible experience and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna avenge myself. I'm gonna go out to all these networking events. I made a whole behind the scenes video just about networking, and by chance, SoundCloud ended up seeing that video. They followed me on Instagram. They told me to meet them in New York, and now SoundCloud is flying me to Toronto for one of their events. To me, that is the definition of a full circle moment. I know a lot of photographers and videographers who their dream is to shoot for a music festival, right? And they think that if you apply for the media pass and you just get rejected, then boom, like that door is closed. That is not true. Like, that one door closed on you, but there are 100 other doors that you aren't even considering. Personally, now that I know this, what I would do in that situation, I would go and DM all of the artists at the very bottom of the lineup. I would be like, hey, I'll shoot photos for you for free at the concert. Use that time backstage to mingle with everybody. You know, not just the founder of the festival. I'm saying like the shy dude in the corner, that photographer, that tour manager. Talk to everybody backstage. Eventually, trust me, you will get asked to shoot for that festival, and in the process, you're gonna make so many valuable connections that you wouldn't even consider. You know, sometimes I honestly think when you're young, dumb, and curious, and you have nothing to lose, it'll actually work out in your favor. You might ask why? Well, it's because when you're a kid, you chase all of these crazy goals without actually knowing like what could possibly knock you down on the way. And that's why so many young people are doing crazy things today. Like, just think about it. But anyways, I hope this was valuable to you. I'm Arshawn from Kids Take Over, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Behind the Scenes. Yo guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Just want to say the whole point behind it was don't give up after your first couple times of trying something. You really got to consistently do it for months to a year to really see progress. And in the beginning, if you take L's, that's completely normal. It's like, trust me, it's happened to me, and I guess it's worked out in my favor, right? I know it will for you guys too, so just keep pushing. But the top comment of the week is from Jordan Hammett. He commented on the last video and he said, "This interviewer is super tuned in." Yo, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I try to stay as knowledgeable as I can about every area of rap, and I'm glad that you recognize that. So Feel free to subscribe. I really want you guys to watch the next videos. The button should be over here or over there somewhere. So subscribe and watch that last interview that we did.